somewhere outside of Nashville, Tennessee. This is the award-winning podcast, Para-Reality.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for tuning in tonight. My name is Sandman, and I'm going to be your guide through this strange realm of ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, aliens, conspiracy theories, and other unsolved mysteries that lies alongside of our reality, separated by a thin veil of knowledge. This is a realm that I like to call Para-Reality. Well, everybody, tonight's episode is one for the conspiracy theorists out there. What I'm going to be doing tonight is investigating the Colorado Mystery Zones and taking you, the listener, along with me. It all started on December 23rd when the Denver Post reported on a band of large drones flying over Phillips and Yuma counties in northeast Colorado. Phillips County Sheriff Thomas Elliott told the Denver Post the following. The drones stay about 200 feet to 300 feet in the air and fly steadily in squares of about 25 miles. There are at least 17 drones. They emerge each night around 7 p.m. and disappear around 10 p.m. That's kind of an eerie description of what's going on, but nonetheless, that's what's happening. And nobody who was interviewed by news reporters, including the local authorities, the Federal Aviation Administration, the Drug Enforcement Administration, the U.S. Army, the Department of Defense, or the Air Force said that they had any idea about what was going on. Nevertheless, there's something happening in the skies above Colorado, and that's what we're going to be investigating tonight. And joining me on tonight's journey is friend of the show, Mr. John Harrison.
Hello, all the conspiracy theorists out there.
John, thanks for joining me on tonight's journey.
Absolutely, Sandman. Love being here.
I always love having you here. And for those of you who don't know who John Harrison is, just a brief little introduction. John Harrison is a scientist who holds degrees in medicine, biology, and chemistry, and he's also a confirmed paranormal skeptic. And he's been on Para-Reality, many times.
Quite a few times.
Over the years. Yes.
Well, it's because you're such a great guy. And this is fun.
Well, I'm glad you have fun. And we always get good ratings whenever you're on the show.
And I'm still waiting for those photographs from the Antarctic wall. So, somebody send those in because, we need proof of there being a flat Earth.
Exactly. We may discuss that later.
Still waiting.
Yeah.
So if you have anything, just send them in to Sandman, okay?
And this is actually the second podcast in a row that you've helped me co-host here.
Yes.
Well, actually third, because there's that one secret podcast that we recorded that I haven't released it yet.
Yes, and we can't tell anybody about that because, it's secret.
Exactly. You have to figure out on your own how to listen to that podcast.
Well, yes, because I'm going to be headed back out west to investigate more curious things out in the Four Corners, and this is really interesting to me because I'm going to be headed back out in that area here pretty soon.
Yeah, and hopefully the phenomenon will still be going on, and you can, be a field reporter.
See,
you never know.
You never know.
It all works out. So before we begin tonight's journey, let me tell you, dear listener, how you can contact me here on the podcast, because there are several different ways that you can do it. First of all, just email me. My email address is sandman@parareality.com. That's sandman@parareality.com. Second, you can find me on Facebook by going to the Para-Reality page there on Facebook. Third way you can get in touch with me is just follow me on Twitter. My username on Twitter is ParaRealRadio. That's ParaRealRadio. And lastly, you can always call the show on the studio line at 615-692-1170 and leave me a message. Seems like I'm always in the studio these days working on the podcast, so I just might answer your phone call, though probably not. But you never know. So if you do decide to call and leave a message, just remember that you are giving me permission to play your comment back on the show. So if you don't want that to happen, you'll need to let me know somewhere in your message. And that number to call again is 615-692-1170. I'm always on the lookout for interesting stories for the podcast. So if you have a story that you'd like to get on the show, tell it to me over the voicemail. If you don't want to be interviewed, you can just leave your story over the voicemail. I think there's like a 5-minute limit or something like that. So if you run out of time, just call back and pick up where you left off. And before we dive into our journey here tonight, before we get going, I want to read an email, because I always do emails on this part of the podcast. And this is kind of a follow-up email. Back in December, I think it was last month, I read an email from Casima Gibbs, and I think I actually mispronounced her name, Cosmina, and I
remember that.
Yeah. I apologize for mispronouncing your name, Casima. So it was about black helicopters.
Yes.
And I actually emailed her. We discussed for several minutes her black helicopter email, and I had emailed her back and asked her a few things, such as
what did she reply?
Well, I'm going to tell you. I asked her a couple of things, like, what time of day it was that she noticed anything unusual happening around her area, or was there any unusual news reports or whatever. And so she emailed me back, and this is what Casima had to say. She says, "Hey, I wanted to give you more details about the black helicopter I saw. It was very dark black, not camouflage colors, but just straight black. The windows were tinted black as well. I couldn't see inside the helicopter. I've been trying to figure out how high it was flying, and I estimate it to be around 200 feet or less above my apartment building." Her apartment building is only 2 stories, she says.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty low.
Yeah, I know. Should have been making a hell of a lot of noise, too.
Right.
She continues, when it flew over, I saw that it wasn't marked, which shocked me because medical helicopters and news ones I usually see are marked with a logo. The weird feeling came when I heard the loud noise. When I saw it, it was like my heart dropped. It took about 20 minutes to connect dots back to the black helicopters you talked about that I had recently listened to. Richmond has a weird energy and bad history. We were destroyed in the Civil War, and bodies are buried everywhere, and they are disturbed often. Now, that doesn't connect back to the black helicopter, but Richmond is a hot spot for military and is a midpoint between D.C. and Virginia Beach. I tried researching and asking around about any military training sessions, but came up with nothing. I wonder why I saw it, and wonder if it is connected to me becoming spiritually awakened. I have learned a lot in only a few months of listening to podcasts and reading like a crazy person. What shook me most was I had just listened to your podcast on the black helicopters and then saw it. I believe the universe sends us messages in all ways, and nothing happens without reason. Synchronicity, man. Anyway, thanks for reading my email, and ask any questions if you like. Thanks again for the awesome knowledge. Respectfully signed, Casima. So she did some pretty good groundwork trying to investigate what was going on.
Casmina?
No, Casima.
Casima. Forgive me.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely great that she took the time to write in, and the fact that she's reading like a reading so much and beginning a spiritual journey, I think, is absolutely, absolutely commendable. So keep it up.
Yeah, keep it up. So, Cosima, there's only so much you can do. I mean, you can try to call the local military base and see. Excuse me. Wow, always. Pardon me. You can try call.
It is flu season.
Mm-hmm. You can call the local military base and see if they had.
I'm all snotty and coughing too. It's horrible this time of year.
And of course, I always get sick right before I have to get a podcast on the air.
Of course.
So, as I was saying, Cosima, you can call your local military installation and see if they had any flights going around in that area that day, but you're probably not going to get anywhere. Even if it was a sanctioned flight or coming from the military base, it was a black helicopter, so there's not going to be any record of that. But you can try. If there's
they're not really going to be forthcoming with that kind of information just as a matter of course, which is very tangential to the topic tonight too.
Yes, that's why I'm reading this tonight, reading this emails, because I thought it was very appropriate.
Because instead of black helicopters, now we're going to have black drones.
Maybe so. Maybe we already do have black drones.
We already do have black drones.
Have to be
yes,
black?
we do.
Yeah. So,
and that's coming from the skeptic.
Oh my God. You're choking me up literally. So another thing that I thought about, you could investigate, Cosima, is if there's any smaller airports like regional or just local airports, not your like national or international airports, but like small airports for like private airplanes, stuff like that.
Did she happen to say anything about what the helicopter might have looked like?
Other than it being black with dark tinted windows, no. So that would be helpful for me if you could try to really describe what the helicopter looked like. I'd be interested to know if it looked like a Black Hawk or if it looked like a Huey.
Yeah, there's plenty of ability to look on the internet at pictures of helicopters and try and figure out something that it might have.
Especially military helicopters, Cosima. Look at pictures of military helicopters and see if any of those strike a stroke of familiarity.
Right, because Black Hawks are everywhere. All the branches of the military will have Black Hawks, and some of them, especially like the ones that I've seen in my time, they're black.
Yeah,
and not always would they be colored or have logos or anything on them that you could see, especially if it's really that dark olive drab, and they'll have the black helicopter ID numbers on the sides of it.
But this had no ID number. That's the thing, there was no ID number.
Well, my point is that you wouldn't be able to see it at a distance because, the colors are so similar to each other.
If it was only 200 feet above her apartment building, she should have been able to have seen that.
Probably not. Who knows?
Well, I used to work for the United States military. Mm-hmm. And so you could say I worked for the government, I guess. And I had a top secret clearance, and I worked around a lot of military helicopters in my job.
I remember.
And I can tell you that a black helicopter probably is not going to be a Huey because they're too loud. They make too much noise, and they're old.
Yes.
A black helicopter today, if it's military, is probably going to be more along the lines of a Black Hawk helicopter. It could possibly be what they call an OH-58, but those are more scout. They're smaller helicopters. Black helicopters
those are
usually bigger.
Little Kiowas, aren't they? The OH-58s.
Very similar. Yes. Yeah. So that's it, Cosima. Try to do a Google search for military helicopters. See if you can find anything that actually looked close to or exactly like what you saw, and let me know. I'd be interested. I'm gonna keep following up on this, and we're gonna hopefully hear more from Cosima, and the future here in the future podcast. So, yeah, thanks for this. Is very interesting. I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued. This is very interesting stuff, and it falls along right in line with what we're going to be talking about tonight. And I want you guys to listen to this.
Now to this story, the FBI, FAA, and U.S. Air Force are investigating a mystery in the skies over Colorado and Nebraska, where swarms of drones have been spotted, sometimes in formation. But who's flying them? Janet Shamlian with new clues tonight.
That's not a plane.
For the last week, Michelle Eckhoff has spotted a high-flying nighttime mystery above her rural northern Colorado home. Drones, sometimes a dozen or more with wingspans 6 feet wide.
The sky is lit up with Christmas lights, basically. There's lights and things flying all over.
Sheriff's departments across the border area of 3 states have been flooded with similar reports since mid-December.
I think whomever is responsible for it will probably have a little bit of answering to do to the general public.
The military and local companies have denied responsibility.
There's one hovering over here.
We waited with Eckhoff until the sun went down and the skies lit up.
It's been dark for about a half hour, and we are seeing drones all over the sky. They appear as little twinkling lights. Sometimes there's just one, but in other cases, we've seen clusters of 6 or more.
Tonight, there are still more questions than answers, and residents are feeling vulnerable.
It feels like an invasion of privacy almost.
And a new development late today. One of the sheriff's offices says it is now looking for a closed box trailer with antenna or a large suspicious van, and is asking anyone who has seen it to call authorities. Nora?
All right, Janet, keep us posted.
They come in the night. Drones, lots of them, flying in precise formations over the Colorado and Nebraska prairie. Whose are they? Who do they belong to? We don't know. Why are they there? Why are they doing this? That's unclear. We have no idea. There's a series of nighttime visitations by mysterious drone swarm has residents of northeast Colorado just baffled. And there's been reported as many as 17 of these drones that appear to be running deliberate search patterns as if they're, specifically looking for something, or maybe even training to look for something. And nobody knows exactly who's controlling these things. And as I said earlier, both the Army and the Air Force, the FAA, the DEA, everybody says it's not us, man. We're not doing it, and we don't know who's doing it. Yeah. Residents of Phillips and Yuma counties have reportedly seen up to, like I said, 17 of these drones at a time, pretty much every night since the last half of December, and between the hours of 7 and 10 p.m., and they reportedly have wingspans of up to 5 or maybe even 6 feet. That's big-time drones, man. And they fly an estimated maybe 30 to 40 miles per hour, and they're equipped with red, white, green, and blue navigation lights. And the swarm is apparently flying 25-mile grid squares, with drones flying one square and then another. And that audio clip that I just played to introduce this was a courtesy of CBS, just so I don't get sued for playing something that I'm not supposed to.
Right,
Yeah. It's actually an audio clip from a video. Mm-hmm. And in the video, you can clearly see when the sun goes down.
Yes, I watched this video for the clip that you were.
Yeah, you can see there's drones out there. Now, I did not see in the video, 17 of them, but I did see a couple of drones flying around out there.
Right.
And one caveat to this is at the end of that news clip, they stated they were looking for a van or something like that with antennas and stuff, that they scrapped that idea totally. That lasted for like 12 hours, and they're like, no, we're not doing that. So they're not looking for anything like that anymore.
So who is our list of suspects?
Ooh, well, we're going to be getting into that here in a little bit. Okay. So I'm glad you asked that question. So who would the suspects likely be? Think of that. Think of, don't say anything. Just think of who you think suspects would be for this. And then we're going to talk about this here in just a minute. Okay. So, but let's actually talk about the drones themselves first.
Okay.
All right. So they look like, from all accounts, that they're unarmed. So it doesn't appear to be a danger to the public. Right. So they don't appear threatening. They're anywhere, the wingspan is anywhere between 5 and 6 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a pretty big drone. That's like a commercial, like this is not something you go to Walmart and buy.
No.
This is a professional type drone. And so you're talking about not just a couple of $100 to drop for this. You're talking about a couple of $1,000
right.
probably to drop for this, right? And there's 17 of them. That's a lot of dough.
Right.
So they all appear to be the exact same make and model, I guess. So, like I said, they're big.
According to some of the research briefly that I've done, there's not that many companies out there that make drones commercially available for something that big.
No, there's not. Like you said, just a handful. And like I said a couple of times, the FAA, our military, the DEA, everybody, every like government agency, I guess, they're all saying these aren't our drones. And
are they denying it or just saying that they don't have any information?
They're denying it. They're saying these drones aren't ours. And there's even been some requests that have gone up to the Pentagon and to say, hey, are these military? Does this belong to the U.S. government, or, is this a Pentagon thing or anything? And the Pentagon just basically is ignoring anything that anyone has sent to them. They're not even replying. They're just like, this. So it's like I guess they're treating it like a non-issue. But local law enforcement is certainly aware of all these drones, and they state that typically that drone operators coordinate,
and they wonder why people are conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, exactly. But like I was about to say, the law enforcement's, they're aware of these drones, and the ones out there in Colorado anyway, and they say that usually when people are doing like drone stuff of this type, where they have big drones or a large number of people who are flying drones all at the same time, those people would normally check in with them. Mm-hmm. They cooperate with the law enforcement. They do that to avoid stuff like this. And no one's checking in with law enforcement. No one's claiming that they know anything about this. So the big question then is, who is operating these drones? So we know they're big. We know they're industrial grade drones,
right?
That cost a couple of $1,000. Speculating, I don't know. So a large swarm of drones like this is expensive, not only to purchase, but it's expensive to develop. It's expensive to operate. And they really do, according to all reports, appear to be following some sort of sophisticated set of algorithms. Most military bases are in central Colorado, or in that area. Most of the military bases around there are located in central Colorado, and that's too far for smaller drones like you can buy, like, at Walmart or whatever, for these to operate from. Mm-hmm. So the drones fly over terrain as varied as towns or emptied fields, and it's a gutsy move to fly drones over private property. Just like in case one of them goes down or someone comes out and shoots them, because
right.
People don't want a drone flying up over their
it would totally wig me out.
And if you're, let's face it, rednecks are all over the place. They're not just in the South. And you have a redneck out there in Colorado in his ranch, and a drone goes flying over. I don't like it. I'm a shooting it.
They better put some buckshot in there.
Yeah,
because hitting one of those things from a distance is not going to be easy.
Yeah, or what if your drone crashes on someone's private property? You got to be pretty gutsy as far as the drone operator. Just go on someone's private property and get it. You're going to have to ask for permission, right?
Right.
So.
But isn't that illegal to actually shoot at a drone?
It is. Authorities have advised residents not to shoot down the drones. It is illegal, and also the batteries that power these drones could accidentally start a fire on the ground
because they're really high capacity lithium cells.
Yeah, so not a good idea to shoot the drones down. Not only could you probably get arrested by breaking some sort of law, but you could probably start a fire, and that would not be good.
Yeah, because if you short circuit one of those lithium ion cells, it creates a lot of heat.
Yep. I wish I had a fire sound clip I could play.
You can.
People screaming.
You could totally have that.
I could totally have it, but I don't. That's the point. I don't have one. So anyway, the sheriff's office, the authorities are like, don't shoot down the drones. And they can't explain where they're coming from, who's flying them or anything like that. And the estimated size and number of the drones makes it really highly unlikely that they're being flown by like simple hobbyists.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a drone. I would be a hobbyist.
Yes.
The FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, told the Sheriff's Department that it had no information on the drones. And as I've said before, U.S. Air Force, Army, basically all branches of the military that they have looked into, stating, man, these things aren't ours. They even have checked with the DEA. Somebody thought, well, let's check with the Drug Enforcement Agency. Maybe they're flying drones, which pretty good idea, I think, outside the box, right? So there's a spokesman for the DEA that said the drones aren't being operated by the DEA either. Drone pilots aren't required to file any flight plans unless they're flying in controlled airspace like an airport or anything, so there's no paper trail for this. It doesn't matter even if the drones are big, for lack of a better word, industrial type drones and not just your usual hobbyist drones. Still don't have to file a flight pattern. So there's no, everybody that they're talking to is denying that they're ours or that they're theirs. There's no paper trail. There's no flight pattern. It's a mystery, obviously. There's no trail. And the FAA and multiple divisions and government agencies are investigating these reports, and so far they have come up with nothing. They even tasked something called a multi-mission aircraft, or MMA, that flew over northeast Colorado last Monday for about 5 hours.
I'm actually reading that article right now. I'm looking at that right now as you speak.
Yeah, but they didn't detect any drones. And
nope,
they were,
sure didn't.
Yep, not able to substantiate any reports. And what I want to know is...
And they reportedly had multiple cameras on that thing, including infrared.
Yes, this is a sophisticated... This is not an aircraft that just... anyone can say, hey, can you help me here? This is like a government aircraft.
I believe it was a firefighting aircraft, I think.
Yeah, I think, yes, it is a firefighting aircraft, but I think it's a governmental type firefighting thing. I don't think it's like owned by a firefighting agency.
No. It would be state controlled. I'm looking at right here says Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm using the word government as an all-inclusive term. There's federal, state, local governments, But anyway, so they use this thing and nothing. So what I want to know is, you're looking at the report. I don't have that in front of me, but is anywhere in the report, does it say that what times they were flying? Because everything that I read just said they were flying for about 5 hours, but I didn't see the time.
It said that the plane took off at around 5 p.m. on Monday, flying what it's referred to as a spaghetti-shaped pattern. I don't know what that means. Over northeast Colorado before returning to its base at the Centennial Airport south of Denver. And
So it was flying during the time that the drones were supposed to be operating.
Yes.
Okay, but still didn't find anything.
Right.
Okay, all right. And so on January 6th, the Colorado Department of Public Safety, there's my creepy clock. I don't know if you can hear it in the background anymore because I got new microphones. They're not as sensitive as my old microphones. Everybody's real quiet now. We're listening to the clock.
Right.
So anyway,
Trying to hear it.
oh my God.
God,
I'm
we're
so
all
sorry.
sick around here. Wash your hands.
I had to mute my mic.
Wash your hands.
Yes, I will go do that, sir. During a one-night operation on January 6th, the Colorado Department of Public Safety provided one MMA, that's a multi-mission aircraft, as a resource to coordinate the ground resources. And they didn't find, like I said, they didn't find anything. This was part of a joint operation coordination meeting where a task force, a mystery drone task force was formed to investigate these things. Now, interestingly enough, about this task force, the media were not allowed to enter this zone, this area where these people were meeting, but they had representatives from 77 different agencies, including the military, who were part of this task force. This is not a small task force. This is 77 agencies had representation. So that means there were at least 77 people involved in this task force.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Investigating some drones flying in the skies at night over Colorado. That's a lot. Why does that, to me, scream overkill? Doesn't that seem like a bit much, John?
Honestly, yes, it does.
Yeah. So why are you going to have 77 different agencies attending this thing?
I honestly don't know.
That was a rhetorical question, I guess.
Right.
But, because I don't expect you to know the answer. But like I said, the plane was in the air for about 5 hours. And the whole time it was in communication with law enforcement vehicles on the ground doing this coordinated, search, ground search, air search, and came up with nothing. So what in the world happened? Well, as calls came in reporting potential suspicious drone activity on that night, the MMA was prepared to identify which ground resource was closest to the sighting and deploy that vehicle in search of information. And that aircraft, the MMA aircraft, typically flies about 10,000 feet above ground level, which is way above what a drone you would think can fly. 10,000 feet. You're not going to,
I would anticipate, though, if in fact they do have infrared cameras on those things, that it would be able to pick it up.
Yeah, the MMA has the capability to detect heat signatures, but didn't detect any suspicious heat signatures or drones related to drone reportings during its flight.
Right.
So there were reports, but it never found anything.
Right. In that area of Colorado where this is going on at is close to Montana, right? Mm-hmm. And I think there were reported sightings in Montana also.
I think that is correct. I know there's some in Nebraska as well.
Nebraska. Maybe I was thinking about Nebraska. Well, my point being is that area of the state is pretty flat. Because Colorado is half flat and half mountains, and on the east side of Colorado, it's still in the Great Plains, so it's flat as a freaking pancake out there.
That's true. I've been out there.
So when you're flying up that high, you don't have any ground problems with mountains or hills or anything to hide behind. So you'd figure that if there was a drone up there, running its little engine hard out on its battery, that hopefully you would be able to pick up a heat signature off of that at the very least.
But no, there was no heat signature. As a matter of fact, during the MMA flight, every report of any type of suspicious drone was investigated, and it was resolved. and none were substantiated.
So was it even there?
Apparently not that night.
Not that night.
Not that night. And so this was on January 6th, on a Monday, January 6th. Then the next night, on Tuesday, January the 7th, there was a Flight for Life medical helicopter that nearly collided with a suspected drone after flying within 100 feet of an unidentified small aircraft. Mm-hmm. Yep. The pilot for that medical helicopter, his name is Kirk Peebles, and he and his crew were responding to it says a routine medical call near Fort Morgan, Colorado, which is northeast of Denver, when they almost reportedly collided with a purported drone. People said that the drone flyby happened so fast his crew didn't have time to respond or identify what type of aircraft it was. He said that the drone went right under us, right under them, probably by about missing them by what he estimated to be 100 feet.
Right. So, and Fort Morgan is approximately an hour northeast of Denver, more or less.
Yeah. The crew actually flies out of St. Anthony's Hospital in Lakewood, Colorado. And when they fly at night, they use night vision. And he said that, the crew
Lakewood's a suburb of Denver.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he said that his crew, he and his crew are normally pretty vigilant whenever they're flying at night. And he was using his night vision, but somehow this supposed drone went entirely undetected until like the close call happened. Mm-hmm. And what's really concerning here, to me anyway, is that most life flight pilots are retired military pilots, and they have thousands and thousands of hours flying in all kinds of weather, both during the day and at night.
I'm glad you told me this, because I was kind of working on a hypothesis for these little drones, and the fact that this was close by to a municipal area kind of shoots a hole in the idea I was trying to formulate.
Okay. So hold on a second, and let me.
Yeah,
I want to finish.
I
want to finish my little thought here. Like I was saying, what's concerning to me is that most life flight pilots, like I said, are retired military pilots, and they have thousands and thousands of hours worth of flying in all kinds of weather under their belt, both during the day and at night. And the fact that an experienced pilot like that couldn't even see the drone until it was almost too late is just a testament as to how dangerous that situation could actually be. So what's your working theory that I just shot down without even trying?
Well, so drones are becoming a part of our daily lives.
Yes.
Okay.
I use one every day to spy on my neighbors.
Amazon is wanting to use these things for deliveries, right?
And to spy on their neighbors.
And to spy on everyone. Some of these larger drones that we were referring to earlier, one report that I was reading that stated that a company called Zipline builds and operates UAVs to deliver blood transfusion supplies to medical facilities in Rwanda and Ghana in Africa.
Yeah, it makes sense that it would be in third world.
Right.
country.
So, these things are being used all around the world for utility every day. So they're going to become much more common in our experience, in our normal everyday experiences as we go forward.
Right.
So the areas in Colorado and Nebraska that we're talking about are some of the areas where the Air Force maintains our intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was thinking about the possibility that maybe these drones could be anti-surveillance drones that maintain an area over the area on a military base or area where a nuclear missile would be.
Yeah, and that's not really very far off from some of the conspiracy theories that are out there. And we're going to get in.
Because it would certainly make sense.
Yeah.
And the Air Force would have the ability to fund and operate such an operation, right? And they also have the capability of keeping everybody silent.
But the Air Force says it's not ours, man. Surely they wouldn't lie.
Surely they wouldn't lie.
So
of course they would lie. And don't call me Shirley.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, that's kind of in line with some of the conspiracy theories that we're going to get into here in a minute. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's kind of a pre-segue into the conspiracy theory part of it. We haven't even reached that part yet. Mm-hmm. We're still into explaining what's going on.
We don't know if the reported possible collision was one of those drones or just some Jaffo operating his own drone out, to go spy on his neighbors. We don't know if they're related.
Was it even a drone?
Yeah.
I'm going to address that as well. See, that's why I love having you co-host on the shows, because you really, you say you're a skeptic, but look, you're thinking just the same as me.
Well,
because you're a closet believer, dude.
Well, you're a believer, but you're actually a skeptic too, by the way that you think.
I've always described myself as an open-minded skeptic, sir.
See, there we go. It's almost like we have telepathic abilities or something.
Telepathetic.
It's my ESPN, man.
There. Yeah. So, following Colorado Governor Jared Polis's second State of the State address given on January the 9th, which was just 3 days after this joint operation with this fancy aircraft, the MMA aircraft. Anyway, Governor,
it is a Pilatus PC-12 turboprop.
What?
The aircraft.
Oh, the medical helicopter.
Right.
Yeah. So that was like you were carrying on a conversation with yourself in your head.
Well, I do that all the time.
Right. So anyway, following...
I have to have an intelligent response sometime.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later. So following Colorado Governor Polis's second State of the State address, which was given on January the 9th, just a mere 3 days after the MMA flight, the joint with 77... Joint mission with 77 agencies.
Were they smoking lots of joints out there?
They might have been. So some local reporters asked the governor what he
thinks. Puff, give, motherfucker.
Some of the local reporters asked the governor what he thinks the outcome of the drone panic will be. And the governor said, in light of the near miss with the Flight of Life helicopter, the drones are no longer simply a novelty and can now clearly pose a public safety threat. And this is what he said. I'm going to quote him directly. Governor Polis said this: "Just today, I talked to our Director of Public Safety to do more state monitoring. We used one of our state planes to do flyovers a couple of days ago," there's referring to the MMA thing, "looking for heat signatures. We didn't detect any. We're going to be doing that again. I was most concerned when I saw an article, I think it was today or yesterday, that there was a near miss from a Flight for Life helicopter and a drone that was operating. This is no longer a novelty. I think we need to figure out what's going on before any accident occurs." So even the governor of the state he's taking this seriously now because of the Flight of Life helicopter.
Absolutely, as well he should.
He's not even knowing what's going on.
Right.
So the Colorado Department of Public Safety said the report of the drone getting too close to the helicopter had, quote, increased concern about these mystery drones. It said it was activating some new resources in response to the incident, but would not be releasing any advanced details about any type of planned operation or or anything like that to keep the integrity of the investigation intact. And additionally, the state multi-mission aircraft, the MMA, is expected to continue to fly missions for the investigation, but they're not going to be releasing any video until the investigation is over.
Right.
So I guess they're treating it like it's like a police investigation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't comment about an ongoing investigation. You have to wait till it's over. You know, so that's nice to hear that the state is taking it seriously.
It is very reassuring. Yeah.
Now the FAA said that it has contacted FAA drone test sites, drone companies, and drone operators allowed to fly drones in the area, and they hadn't even determined the source of the drones. And the FAA went on to say that it also had contacted airports in the area to urge pilots to be cautious and report any sightings, and they were discussing more ways to identify the operators of the drones.
Mm-hmm.
So there we have kind of the whole backstory about what's been going on.
So we have people reporting that they're seeing lights in the sky, UFOs, for lack of a better word, right?
Unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP.
Right. And then we go out and we're searching for it, and we can't find any. Right?
Right.
And everybody is kind of shrugging their shoulders and going, well, it wasn't us.
Ain't me, man.
So what do we have? Could we have a larger list of possibilities and really no solid evidence, right?
But we do have a lot of conspiracy theories.
We certainly do.
Which segues into the conspiracy theory portion of this podcast. So
let's go.
Yes, these mysterious drone sightings over Colorado and Nebraska, man, you're not going to find any shortage of people convinced that they're seeing something.
That's right. In the absence of evidence, there's nothing that a good story can't fill it in.
There was one report from a guy that said that they counted 30 drones or UAV/UFOs over Haxton. Another says in nearby Kearney, Nebraska, about 8 drones traveled from the west. Excuse me. I'm sorry about the cough, everybody. I'm trying to mute my microphone. So there were concerned calls. People reporting swarms of drones. Someone said that was going on circling Denver, that there were swarms of drones circling Denver and seemed to be making a circular pattern around the city. So, you got something like this. That is not that's different than all of those things are different than what the true reports are.
Right.
So you're going to get people who are thinking they're seeing stuff, and any little thing that they see in the sky, they're going to be reporting.
Exactly. And like I was mentioning earlier, that area of land out there, it's pretty flat. And on a clear night, you can see a pretty far distance.
Yeah.
So if you see, it's completely possible that if you see one thing that might look like a drone, and then you see another thing moving on the horizon, maybe it's a commercial aircraft,
or a prop job,
or a prop job, or anything like that. You'll see the lights from hundreds of miles distant.
Yeah, and that's my point, is that people are seeing drones, 17 drones making a 25 square mile grid pattern, and now people in Denver proper are saying, "Oh, there's 30 of them circling the city." People are going to start seeing things, thinking that they're seeing these drones, but they're
and I mean,
they're really not.
And if they're happening at night or at dusk, when visibility is horrible, it's completely possible that you're not really seeing what you think you're seeing, or confusing it for something else.
Exactly.
So we can't eliminate that possibility that, all of this is being blown out of proportion.
Yeah, you're right. You're getting concerned calls from residents worried about secret government spying and invasions of privacy.
Right.
and this is going to prompt your local sheriff's department, your local police department to set up a task force, which is exactly what happened. And, they set up this task force, 77 people, 77 agencies, federal and state represented there, trying to get to the bottom of these drone sightings. And so far, they found nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to see here, nothing to find. Now, one theory is that the initial sightings reported in mid-December were not drones at all, but a constellation of recently launched SpaceX global internet satellites known as Starlink.
Oh, I've read about this. Astronomers are really upset with Mr. Musk.
The satellites, which look like a line of dots in the sky, would have been visible beginning the evening of December the 18th and would have appeared brighter than the planet Venus, according to the satellite tracking website Heavens Above.
Yes.
So, yeah, astronomers are PO'd at.
Yeah, because it absolutely ruins, any observations that you're doing out there. And then, the skies are generally nice and clear out there. So, yeah, you're going to peeve off some astronomers.
So that's one theory. And I don't.
I think that's a completely credible one.
I don't see how that theory is going to hold water, because people are saying that these things are flying in 25-mile square grid patterns.
How are you going to judge that in the middle of the night?
I don't know. I'm just saying what the people are reporting.
I'd like to know how you could judge that.
I don't know. I'm just saying what the reports say, and that does not match SpaceX satellites.
No, unless you're seeing it pretty close to the horizon.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't see how you could figure that out.
Exactly. Now, other theories tend to stretch their imagination a little bit. Some people say that the drones have to belong to the military, searching for, and this is where we get back to the nuclear thing. There are conspiracy theorists out there who say that these drones are military drones and they're searching for a lost nuclear warhead. Silence in the peanut gallery.
A lost nuclear warhead.
A lost nuclear warhead.
How in the world could you lose a nuclear warhead, for God's sakes?
Man, the government has probably lost so much shit that we don't know about.
It's not like they're running around on trucks or anything. They're should be attached to missiles, for God's sakes. Not saying that it isn't possible, because God knows.
Well, I don't know who started this theory or where it came from or how they came up with it. But just based on the fact that there are nuclear missile silos out there.
Right.
That kind of tends to, it'd be easy for someone who lives around that area to say, oh, government must have lost a nuclear warhead.
Yeah,
and they're looking for it.
I think Farmer Joe needs to go back and have another beer.
What about another?
The fact that the Air Force being out there, and they're going to have anti-drone technology. Imagine an anti-drone drone.
Right.
And
they exist.
And they have the capability, they have the technology, and they have the resources to be able to experiment with that kind of stuff. And, it's pretty flat out there. Seems like a great place to train to be. Not that I'm aware of any Air Force training facilities in those areas of Colorado or nearby. Not that I'm an expert at that.
What about the conspiracy theory about foreign powers using drones to try to spy on the current missile silos?
Hence the anti-drone drone thing that I was telling you about. Mm-hmm. I don't really think that there's a lot that they could get out of that either Russia or China hasn't already taken a picture of with a satellite. It's just easier to get it with a satellite, in my opinion, because then you wouldn't have to bother with any ground issues, controlling them from the ground or retrieving them or any of that kind of stuff. It's easier with a satellite.
I agree, but you never know.
You never know.
It's a plausible theory. Another theory is,
I wouldn't put a lot of weight behind it, though.
No. I would put more weight behind that than I would a lost nuclear warhead.
Right.
So another theory is that the drones belong to the DEA, and they are looking for houses who are illegally growing marijuana.
In Colorado. False.
Hey, you have to have permits to grow marijuana in Colorado.
Maybe if they're trying to, it really has to be a large scale farming operation. But no, man, I wouldn't put a lot of weight behind that either.
And why would you have a fleet of 17 of them flying in a 25 square mile grid pattern?
Right.
To look for illegal growth.
And besides, if someone was trying to actually hide growing out there, you would literally have to have an underground bunker. But I mean, you're in Colorado, for God's sakes. You don't really have to hide that anymore.
Just go buy it.
Exactly.
And one of the other conspiracy theories is that we're not actually seeing drones, as we're seeing alien spacecraft looking for something.
We're really reaching on that one, aren't we?
It's not my theory, man.
No.
I'm just reporting. I am a reporter reporting the news. I am taking you and all of my loyal listeners with me along on this journey, this investigative journey here.
Well, I would be really curious as to what they're looking at out there. If it isn't the ICBM silos that
bases. They're looking for places to put bases.
Places to put bases.
Places for bases.
Man, I don't. Like I said, we just don't know enough about anything right now to really be able to figure out something. All your bases now belong to us. Isn't that a meme? All your base now belong to us.
I don't know.
That's a meme.
But not Dolce Base. You don't know what Dolce Base is?
I don't know what Dolce Base is.
Oh my God! Somebody tell this man what Dolce Base is.
Oh God!
Somebody please email me, sandman@parareality.com, and
is it BASS?
So I can base, not
as in bass.
No,
base. Well, base is BASS.
Yes, but not that type of base. You dumbass.
I don't know.
God.
Dulce Base. The subject is conspiracy theory claiming that jointly operated human and alien underground facility exists under something Mesa, Archuleta Mesa in the Colorado-New Mexico border near the town of Dulce, New Mexico. Oh, I need to go find this place.
There are aliens there, man.
Dulce.
And they'll kill you.
Dulce,
there was a big
New
battle
Mexico.
in Dulce Base.
Dulce.
I can't believe you didn't know about this.
I didn't know. I did not. Where is... Have I been around this area? Let me look and see.
Oh, my God. Well, look, while you're looking and seeing...
Actually, I have been up around that area.
Well, that goes back to the alien conspiracy theory with these drones, is that we're seeing either alien craft, or maybe maybe it's the government drones looking for alien spacecraft. But Dulce Base is not too far from all of this.
Well, actually, it really is. Because you got to remember, those places out there are big.
Well, yes. Okay.
They are big.
I concede that. Okay. But it's still in Colorado.
Dulce is in New Mexico, right over the border from Colorado.
I thought it was in Colorado, right next to the New Mexico border.
It's Dulce, New Mexico.
Okay, I was wrong.
I
stand corrected.
There's not a lot of stuff around this. The closest towns that I can see on Google Maps is a little town called Armago, New Mexico.
Well, anyway, that goes back.
Yeah, it's in the middle of nowhere.
Conspiracy theories. So, yeah, so they've there's a few conspiracy theories there. Some range from the plausible, some range to the the downright just not believable. So, everybody, just take a listen to this before we go any further.
On a rural farm in Colorado, bizarre lights in the night sky. This one blinking here, one of more than a dozen unidentified drones flying in formation for miles. And on the ground, even local law enforcement calling them in.
I had what I believe to be a drone pass over me, and it was headed east towards Yuma.
Since a week before Christmas, the drones have been appearing around 7 at night and flying for hours. Sometimes they're seen in groups of 30 and able to fly very quickly, with witnesses saying some of the drones have wingspans estimated to be 6 feet or more. The sightings reported across 5 counties in Colorado.
They can sit there and hover, they can descend very fast, they can take off very fast.
When Wyatt Harmon saw them above his land, he and his girlfriend tried to chase him down.
That one's big.
The mothership thing?
Yeah.
They followed a line of drones for 15 miles, even pushing speeds past 70 miles an hour, but no luck.
We got close to one, and it descended. I swear it got closer to us, and then the light shut off.
It's kind of just scary. It's more unnerving than anything.
So far, their video is the best evidence to emerge, enhanced here, but still unclear. The FAA saying they're in contact with local law enforcement, but don't have any concrete information to act on. And the Army saying the drones don't belong to any nearby bases. Some experts speculating that the drones could be flying for private companies conducting mapping or surveys for things like oil and natural gas. Other theories suggest they're a part of practice runs for the kind of drone shows put on at sporting events or theme parks.
Trigger.
But online, some residents are unnerved, wondering if drug cartels or the government are involved, sparking conspiracy theories with people asking on Facebook, can we shoot them down if over our property? Authorities warning against that, saying shooting at any aircraft, including a drone, is a federal offense. And while the mystery remains unsolved, they don't think the drones are malicious.
So, Gotti, this is all certainly strange, but do we know if any of this is illegal?
Yeah, it's definitely weird, but at this point, the sheriffs have said they think the drones are staying well above the 200 feet mark over people's property, which is probably too high for the drones to be looking into windows. So, no, as of now, officials don't think the mysterious operator is breaking any laws, but just like the rest of us, they want to know who they are.
So that clip came from, I think, CBS This Morning or something like that. I can't remember where I got that clip from because I did it a couple of days ago. I don't know.
Didn't ring a bell with me.
No. But anyway, I'm trying to full disclosure because, once again, I don't want to get sued, but that was not an original clip from this podcast. So we've come to the final segment of the show, and we're going over an hour tonight. So that's fine. It's my podcast. I can make it last as long or as short as I want to, right?
It's my party.
Yeah.
Exactly. I can cry if I want to.
So I think that I have a couple of good, plausible answers as to who or what is behind the operation of these drones. And I think one of these, I tweeted out today that we were going to be doing a podcast in preparation for, well, we're recording this podcast on Monday. And I tweeted out today that we were going to be doing the podcast in preparation for the Friday airing of the show, and that I had what I call a bombshell theory, a bombshell revelation as to what or who could be behind these drones. I've done some of my own research, obviously, for this podcast, this episode of the podcast, and I've done some deep dives into some things over the past several days in preparation for this, and I have two plausible theories, one of which I think is outside the box that I don't think a lot of people have thought about. The first one that I want to talk about is, well, as it turns out, these mysterious drone swarms that have been spotted all Colorado and have vexed the governor, the law enforcement, and residents alike might not be so mysterious after all, man.
Tell me.
Well, while no one's taken responsibility for this, and even the FAA has claimed that, like I said, once again, these aren't ours, man. The answer could be a secretive Air Force program intended to keep prying eyes away from nuclear missile silos.
See, I was right.
Now,
maybe
this goes to your theory. Okay, this is not what I call my bombshell theory. All right. So Air Force Global Strike Command, which is based in Louisiana.
When can I sign up for Space Force?
You'll have to talk to Trump, dude. We may be too old. I don't know.
I need to be in Space Force.
So Air Force Global Strike Command, which is based in Louisiana,
Lieutenant Dan
has
Space
confirmed.
Force.
Don't make me mute your microphone. Global. See, you're just screaming at me. I'm muting your microphone.
Lieutenant Dan.
Air Force Global Strike Command, which is based in Louisiana,
Lieutenant
has
Dan.
confirmed that it conducts counter-drone exercises out of F.E. Warren Air Force Base in Cheyenne. So the command oversees, excuse me. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to mute my microphone again.
And Cheyenne is close by to where this is
Yes.
going on.
Yes. The command oversees underground Minutemen silos spread across northeastern Colorado, southeastern Wyoming, and western Nebraska. That's the area where the drones have been spotted almost nightly since December 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Air Force isn't claiming ownership of these drones, but if you look at it, they're not really denying it either.
Right.
You know, so F.E. Warren Air Force Base. Excuse me, I lost my place there. F.E. Warren Air Force Base they've yet to respond to questions about whether its counter-drone effort has anything to do with these recent sightings. They're kind of being mum about it, which is very, very suspicious as far as I'm concerned.
Right, and it's F.E. Warren Air Force Base is right in Cheyenne.
Yep. A Federal Aviation Administration map of the region where the drones have been spotted, which is in the counties of Logan, Phillips, Sedgwick, and Yuma. This thing is pocket. Yeah, that. It's pocked with red dots of where the drones are forbidden. Not where drones are, but where they're forbidden, which is restricted airspace, presumably above these missile silos. The Air Force counter-drone program at Warren, which includes extensive testing of civilian drones. They test civilian drones there. This relies on innovative technology, including D-drone. Not dead-drone, but D-drone. It's a system developed in Europe that detects and tracks small civilian drones using the radio signals they require for control.
Very
interesting.
Yes,
right?
yes. See,
this is run by the 90th Security Support Squadron at Warren. The counter-drone program is one of several across the Defense Department.
Right. This goes along with, makes a lot of sense with what I was kind of thinking, that there ought to be an anti-drone program within the U.S. Air Force. Makes total sense to me. Got a tickle in my throat.
Yes, I do. Please fill in for me for a second whilst I drink something.
Well, like I said, it makes perfect sense that the Air Force could be running a program or tests to see what kind of drones there are out there, how they can detect them, it would make perfect sense. But honestly, I don't know why the Air Force would want to hide that fact. Well, actually, I probably just answered my own question because, if the Air Force is doing it for security purposes, they're not going to talk about it. And they're going to deny it. And if anybody can have plausible deniability, it's like, okay, you don't talk about this. And they're not going to talk about it.
I certainly apologize for all the unprofessional coughing and stuff that just occurred here. I'm glad you were here because you could fill in for me while I was coughing my lungs out.
Everybody wash your hands and cover your coughs.
So as I was saying, this counter-drone program is run by the 90th Security Support Squadron at Warren, and it's one of several across the Defense Department to take aim at the unmanned aircraft or the drones.
Completely plausible.
It is. And for the nation's missile troops, the camera carried by small drones present a threat because they could give an adversary clues on how to attack intercontinental ballistic missiles, a key component of our power as a, global dominant.
Even though I offered that idea, a little while ago, like I was saying earlier, honestly, I think it's easier to get the information that any global power would need just from looking at satellite data, because it's not like this is a secret.
That's true.
I honestly, why would Al Qaeda want to know where a nuclear silo is in the middle of the continent? I don't think they can do very much without that.
Maybe you should think of it like this: if it is a foreign power using this, it's cheaper, and maybe people wouldn't suspect it as much, not have it defended against, like they would, not be as prepared for it as they would for satellites. I'm just thinking, just throwing that out there.
I just don't know enough about operations of any said thing, but those things take a little while to spin up. It's not like they're really vulnerable or anything like that. Well, they're really deep underground.
Well, the 90th Missile Wing has its own military police unit equipped with helicopters to protect these missile silos from threats on the ground.
Because look, if you're operating a drone, if in fact it is a drone, you got to have someone on the ground to be controlling it, right?
True. And the War Counter Drone program focuses on the small drones, the commercially available drones that can be purchased like on Amazon for $50. Mm-hmm. And the Air Force did a news release about the commercial drones, and they said that they provide a realistic training environment as far as these things go.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. Now, I talked about the company called, and once again, I apologize for the coughing. I'm so sorry. The company Dedrone, they a representative from them, Lisa Meserve, she handles federal sales for Dedrone, said that her company is working with private companies and government organizations to include the Air Force to detect drone flights. And this firm has worked with F.E. Warren since this initial contract in 2017, so only for a couple of years there. Now, Meserve, she couldn't say where the drones in northeastern Colorado came from. She did say that the Air Force is fond of testing F.E. Warren's drone detecting capabilities. Mm-hmm. So that is one of two of my possible solutions for what's going on here.
Right.
Which very much goes in with what you were saying back at the middle part of the podcast.
Like I was saying before, I think that's completely plausible that the Air Force could be running an anti-drone program to see what they can do to defend against these little drones.
Very plausible.
Or even larger ones.
Very plausible. But before I wrap up the show, here's one more thing that I'd like to point out, and this is my bombshell theory. I'm calling this a bombshell theory because I don't think there's very many people, if anyone, because I don't think there's very many. Thank you for that.
You didn't even have to download that one.
Extremely realistic. So
it's a skill.
I don't think that very many people have thought about this. If anybody, I'm not saying that I'm the first one or the only one. I'm just saying I don't think that there's very many people that have thought about this. There is a seemingly minor detail lacking from all the reports, is that there's precious little evidence that these drones actually really exist.
Yes. As we've indicated.
Now,
yeah.
I'm not saying that this is some kind of hoax or that all the eyewitnesses' accounts are wrong, but this lack of evidence hasn't been lost on drone enthusiasts. They've actually seen stuff like this before. apparently there's a long history of the media accepting drone sighting claims without much, no supporting evidence, only for investigators to later determine that whatever was seen wasn't really a drone after all.
Right.
So someone can go to the news media and say, oh, a drone did this. And the media's like, yeah, we're on it. And they don't really do a lot of background investigating. They're just pretty much accepting it for face value.
Because what are they going to do? And they're going to say, okay.
I guess.
Okay, you saw a drone. Congratulations.
Now, I can say this because I can back this up with a white paper from DJI, who is a major drone manufacturer. And this white paper points out 10 cases with links to both the initial media hysterics and the ensuing fact check from official investigations.
So
I'm going to give you two examples. Okay. Example number 1, August 2015, a pilot reported striking a drone about 20 miles from O'Hare International Airport. The FAA investigated the incident and found that, in fact, he had hit and killed a bird.
Okay.
Media was all over this. Oh, it's a drone. Case number 2, 8 months later. This was a widely publicized story. A British Airways pilot said that he hit a drone near Heathrow Airport. But the UK Transport Secretary later reported that it wasn't a drone and that the dude had probably hit a plastic bag that was flying in the air. So there's, and like I said, this paper gives 10 of these cases. Those are only two.
So everyone just blaming it on a drone when it was really something else.
When they weren't paying attention to what the hell it was, or they didn't know, and they just automatically assumed.
Okay.
Now, the report goes on to say that this is part of a larger trend of pilots falsely reporting pretty much any kind of unidentified in the sky as a drone. The DJI further cites a study by the Academy of Model Aeronautics, who knew there was such a thing, which analyzed all of the records of such sightings as of August the 21st, 2015.
Wait, what was that thing called again?
It was called the Academy of Model Aeronautics.
Who knew?
Exactly. And they analyzed back in 2015, they analyzed all records of these sightings as of August the 21st, 2015. So this is kind of old, but I don't have any other data. But they found that only 27 out of a total of 764 reports were legitimate near misses from drones. That's only 3.5%.
Wow.
Of the total reported cases that were actually drones. So that's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, there's not a lot of evidence here to support all these claims that it was a drone.
Right.
So what's your conclusion from this?
Well, I'm glad that you said that. Now that I've said all of that, this brings me back full circle to the Colorado and Nebraska sightings, which picked up some steam after a helicopter pilot reported coming into, I quote, dangerous proximity with a drone, although there wasn't any further evidence that could be provided for this claim.
Yes, and I remember we were talking about that. Was it even a drone? We don't know.
The life flight helicopter, right? So, yeah, I was just going to ask you if this sounded familiar.
Right, because
it should, because we just talked about it a little while ago.
Yeah.
Right? So now let me present, now that I've had the build-up, let me present my final theory about what or who could really be behind this drone mystery. The timing for all this is just a little too coincidental because there has been a recently proposed FAA rule that would require drones to be identified remotely using a unique identifier and GPS coordinates sent via cellular signal to a credible database, which many drone enthusiasts worry will ruin their hobby.
Okay, so how does this connect?
Well, what better way to drum up support for such a policy than a nationally covered drone mystery? Right?
Well, it certainly would draw attention to the need for that. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so get this, all right? The rule, which was introduced on December the 31st, 2019, just a mere week after these sightings started, it's titled Remote Identification of Unmanned Aircraft Systems. And it's currently open for public comment until, I think, March the 1st, 2020. I'm going to have on my website, on the homepage, a PDF file of this proposed rule, and I'm going to try to make it downloadable so you can view it or save it for yourself. And I'm going to have a link on the homepage as well that'll take you to this website where you can make your own public comment about this proposed rule.
Okay, all right. Let me get this. Okay, so you are hypothesizing that the FAA is creating a controversy in order to support a law to track drones.
Yes. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Why would they need to do that?
To garner support for their proposed rule. What better way to get something passed? Because the FAA is part of what? It's a governmental agency.
It's a Fed agency, yes.
Right. It says so in their title, right?
Right.
So what better way for our government to, and I say this with my air quotes, control the drones? What better way to control the drones than with a law that we, the American people, publicly support? We've got this mystery drone thing flying over Colorado and scaring the bejesus out of everybody because no one knows who's doing it, why they're doing it, where they're coming from. It's a mystery. We can't solve it. All these agencies are involved, and everyone's saying it's not me, but we can't find out who it is.
Right.
So now the government wants to be able to know who's flying the drone.
It sounds like a good idea. Right? Why would they? Well, okay, we're assuming that, some drone hobbyist would think that this is going to ruin their ability to spy on their neighbors.
No,
right?
No, it's not going to ruin their ability to spy on their neighbors. You can still spy on your neighbor whether you're having the signal sent or not. What I'm saying is the government is wanting to track the drones, every drone.
I think that's a good idea.
And be able to, quote unquote, control these drones. And I'm not saying physically take control of them, but if the government wants to have knowledge of who is flying these drones, what they're doing with them, and what better way to
in other words, having some accountability for it.
Well, what better way to gain the ability to do this than from the American people? If the American people want it, then we're just handing over the keys to our democracy to the federal government.
Whoa.
It's the same thing.
No. That is not the same thing. That is not the same thing. Having accountability for someone using their drone is probably a good thing. Wouldn't you agree?
Not necessarily, no.
Why not?
Because it's none of the government's business what I'm going to do with my drone. If I want to take my drone out, if I own a farm and I want to take my drone out and survey my farm, the government shouldn't have to know where I'm flying it to, what I'm doing with it, where it came from, blah, 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 GPS bullshit, all this other sorts of stuff. The government has no need to know that.
Right.
That is a form of invasion of privacy as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I mean, you are operating an aircraft that could potentially harm other people's lives. It's the reason for the FAA.
That is true, but most people who are flying drones of that nature aren't going to be endangering other people's lives. It's the same thing. So maybe me saying handing the keys of democracy over to our government, maybe that was a little too extreme.
I think that's a little hyperbole.
So
there.
I'll admit that, but it's the same thing. Now, this is another thing that you and I are going to disagree on, and probably a lot of people listening to this podcast will disagree on. And that's fine. But it's the same thing as us handing over our guns to the federal government. Because it's none of the government's business if I want to privately own a handgun. Now, if I take that gun out and I murder someone with it, murder is a capital offense. Okay? If I own a drone, it's none of the government's business what I do with my privately owned drone. Now, if I go out and I fly it high enough to kill someone in their commercial airliner flying over or whatever, then yes. Okay.
Well, I think this goes to the point that we were talking about earlier, is that, okay, if you do have a drone, how are you going to track it back to said person?
If you do have a gun, how are you going to track it back to said person? Well, there are serial numbers.
Because there should be tracking for
there's
it.
Serial numbers.
And
there's serial numbers on guns.
Blah, 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 and all
stuff
sorts
like
of
that. You can put
get
identifiers on the drone without having to have GPS signals and all this other sorts of stuff. Look, I'm not saying that like this is like some secret governmental control program they're trying to take over everything. But what I'm saying is really the government shouldn't really have to know what the hell it is that I'm doing with my drone. The FAA wants to have this information. So what better way to gain support for this than by creating a drone mystery, panicking the people, and then saying, oh, look, just by some coincidence, we have this bill that's being introduced. Call your local congressman right now in support of this bill. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, granted, I think it's curious that the two are correlated in time, but correlation does not equivalent. I completely screwed up that verb. Correlation does not equate causality.
This is true, right. But it is a coincidence, in my opinion, that cannot be ignored.
Honestly, I don't know. I kind of see it as it's an interesting idea. I kind of think it would be overkill, for the FAA to go through all that much trouble. I mean, it's the FAA, for God's sakes, it's not like this is a controversial agency.
But they're still going to have to pass this into law.
Right.
And it's going to need support. So what better way to ensure that this is going to get passed than to gain support of the American people and even Congress?
It would certainly help, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. Now, I have been, obviously, I have looked at, I haven't read, this thing is long and complicated, and I'm going to freely admit that I have not read the whole entire thing, but I have been to the website where you can see this. I've downloaded the document. I have it on my hard drive, and I've looked at what it says, and basically it's your what I would say is your typical run-of-the-mill proposal for a bill. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Lots of government legalese and all sorts of stuff.
And I'm sure there's probably something hidden in there that Congress and House of Representatives and all that shit, I'm sure they can read between the lines and pick up stuff. I don't know. But it seems to me to be just like not nefarious, just like your regular run-of-the-mill bill. And if this whole thing wasn't going on with the drones, you would read this and you'd be like, I don't know why, they would be proposing this for GPS tracking and blah, blah, blah. I don't know why. And, but whatever,
Honestly, it sounds like a great idea to me.
I think it's a form of invasion of privacy. I really do. I don't think the government needs to know what I do with my drone. there are other ways to track a drone other than doing all that. As far as if the drone crashes, flies into an airplane or whatever, there should be other ways. Anyway.
Well, like I was saying earlier, drones are going to become much more common going forward.
Now, if it is,
everybody is going to be able to operate a drone and move it from here and there and the other.
Look,
and I think having some accountability for it is not a bad idea, because you can hurt somebody with it.
Well, if it's like an industrial drone that's used by a company, i.e. Amazon, if Amazon is going to pick up a drone or have a fleet of drones and pick up my package and deliver it to me.
You can bet your bippy that they're going to track those.
Yes. There should be something to track those, like with commercial airlines or whatever. But my private drone that I go to Walmart and buy for $50, the government should not have any interest in what I'm going to do with that. The government doesn't need to know what I'm going to do with that. I'm not going to fly this $100 drone as high as what these commercial industrial drones.
And I maybe there's somewhere in that document that specifies what kind of drone we're talking about here. And like I said, I just don't know. So
well, I haven't read the whole entire document because it's a snoozer, just like any other proposal. But anyway, what I was trying to get to just a second ago is that I've been to the website, I've read it, I've downloaded it, I've even looked at some of the public comments where there's like over 300 public comments on these things. And out of the ones that I looked at, and I looked at several pages of comments, there's not one person on there who is saying, hey, does this have anything to do with what's going on in Colorado?
Right.
But as you can guess, there are a lot of people who are commenting who are drone enthusiasts and who fly drones and everything, and I've seen good points and bad points, but there's a lot of concern from drone enthusiasts about what this will do, and a lot of it is the same concerns I have, which is, why should the government give a shit what I do with my private drone? It's none of the government's business, but yet they want to know.
Well,
so anyway, that's my bombshell theory. It's the FAA.
It's the FAA doing it.
It's the FAA doing this to garner support for their proposed bill.
And I think my response to that idea is like, if that is the fact, someone at FAA has got balls the size of Colorado for trying to pull this off. And
well, maybe
good for them.
Maybe it's going to work. I said that it's open for public comment until, I believe, it's March the 1st or March the 2nd of this year. I don't know when it's going to go to be, voted on or whatever, but I'm going to keep a look on this. And if you want to look it up for yourself, like I said, the name of the bill is Remote Identification of Unmanned Aircraft Systems. I'm going to make this PDF file available on my website at parareality.com on the homepage where you can take a look at it.
Cool.
Cough coming on. Hold on.
Pestilence.
My God. I must be, maybe I'm contagious. We'll know if you get sick.
I already am.
Well, it's confirmed I'm contagious. No, I'm not running a fever, so I can't be contagious.
That's not true.
I know this. I know this. So, okay, man, we've gone way over time. We're on like an hour and 34 minutes. So, and you were worried that we were going to not have enough material for an hour show.
Honestly, yeah, I was.
And I was like, don't worry about it. I've got this.
Look at this.
I'm a professional. I can do this. So
you can do this all night.
So, Mr. Harrison, sir, do you have a theory besides the nuclear missile silos? Do you have a theory that is plausible?
After all that we've discussed tonight, I think the Air Force operating an anti-drone drone program seems the most plausible to me. I'm liking that idea. Or other than that, everybody just, seeing a drone and thinking that there's a million of them out there.
Well, we talked about this before we went on air tonight, and we didn't bring it up, so I'm going to do it now so we don't forget. There is also a possibility that there was a few people who were part of maybe a drone enthusiast club who went out one night to do some night flying, freaked a bunch of people out. It made the news.
And then they went
then
to
they
ground.
were like,
I completely forgot we talked about that.
And they were like, oh, this shit is hilarious. Let's do it again. And they just kept on doing it.
That's right. It's completely likely. Completely likely. Yeah, let's fuck with these people.
Exactly. It could be as simple as that.
It certainly could. It certainly could.
So,
thank you for mentioning that. I completely forgot about that.
So it's not as like, out there as my FAA conspiracy theory, but I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to stick to that. I think.
And you see, and if the government passes that law, they wouldn't be able to do that.
Right.
That would be a bummer.
But let's look at let's okay. So to wind things down, let's end on this note. Okay, let's just say that it is a bunch of people, Joe Blow and his friends from the Joe Blow Drone Club, that are doing this just to have some shits and grins
from Space Force.
Okay, it's Space Force, whatever. But let's just say it's some people in their drone hobby club that are doing this just for shits and grins, okay? Excuse me. So, are they doing anything that's illegal?
No.
Are they doing anything that's harming anybody?
No.
No. So why the big deal?
I think it's because it just wigs people out.
Because people want to know, right? So if they're not doing anything illegal and they're not harming anybody, why would the FAA or any other agency need to know what these people are doing and why they are doing it by installing a GPS tracking system that transmits over cell phone waves in a drone? Why? Why would they need to do this? Why would they need to know?
I do believe that, without knowing anything else, I do believe that this law is intended to get ahead of the drones becoming much more integrated with everyday living. And this is, looking forward and forecasting to when we really need to have a much tighter control over these things if they're flying and buzzing around all over the place every day.
Maybe so. But once again, I think this should be more for not the private use drones, but more the commercial use drones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I don't really think we have a good...
Excuse me.
We probably don't have a good delineation of that yet either, which maybe that law will address. I don't know.
To be seen, sir.
Yes.
To be continued. So, in conclusion, we've really not solved a whole lot other than the fact that I think that it's the FAA.
Well, we certainly have brought attention to this issue and discussed quite a few possibilities as to what it could be. We've used real-time information, quote, quote, and been able to talk about something that's timely, which is pretty unique for, as far as paranormal and conspiracy research goes. So I think that's really interesting.
Well, it's not that unique because people jump on hot topics all the time.
Right. And, it's a UFO, because we see something in the sky that we can't figure out what it is and kind of wigs people out.
Yeah, you're right. Is exactly that, because UFO, unidentified flying object.
And the fact that
doesn't mean it's from space.
No, it could be Lieutenant Dan messing with you.
Yes, it could
be. And well, that's kind of creepy in and of its own self.
I don't even want to think about that. So let me wind it down with this quote from the Phillips County Sheriff's Office. They actually posted this on their Facebook page, and it says, We believe that the drones, though startling, are not malicious in nature. The Sheriff's Office is following up on leads and communications with state and federal agencies to pinpoint the exact nature of their activities. So even the Sheriff's Department, the law enforcement agency, says they're not really nefarious, they're not doing anything illegal, but they still want to know,
right,
just like everybody else, what's going on.
Until they start slinging some 30 caliber penises underneath these drones, then they're a danger.
Once again, why do people nothing? They're not doing anything illegal. No one is being harmed. Why do we want to know? Because it's a mystery, and that's part of human nature. Is we see something, we don't know what it is or what's going on. We want to know. We want to solve it. Why do we climb the mountain?
Because it's there.
Exactly.
Well,
John, thanks for
thank you, Sandman,
on this.
It was fun as always.
Episode of the show.
Extra long.
Yeah, and see, I told you we were going to have plenty of material.
Bigger, longer, and uncut.
We went way over an hour. So, everybody, once again, I thank you, John Harrison, for being.
Thank you, Sandman, and thank you, listeners.
Yeah, and if you want to get in touch with John Harrison, if you have a question for him or a comment, or if you just want to tell him he's full of crap or you like him or whatever, he does not have any social media whatsoever. He does not do Facebook. He does not do Twitter.
Nope.
No Instagram.
Nope.
He does have email.
I'm a total ghost on those things.
He is. He has no email. He has an email, but for privacy purposes, I am not giving you out John Harrison's email. So if you have a question or a comment for John, like I said, if you want to just tell him,
but if you want to send nudes, that's okay.
Yeah. So if you want, God, why did I ask you to do this? So if you have a question or comment, like I said, maybe you just want to tell him he's full of shit. Maybe you want to tell him you like some of his commentary, or just whatever. You just want to say hi to John Harrison. Just email me, sandman@parareality.com, and I promise you I will forward your info to Mr. John Harrison. Thank you once again, John, for being here on Parareality Radio.
Anytime. It's always a blast.
Man, I always enjoy having you. We do have a good rapport with each other. And as the resident skeptic for the show, when you came on, I don't know, 5 years ago or however long it's been.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. I want you to know, by the way, that you have the record set for the most times I've had the same guest on the show ever.
Wow.
I'm going to have to go back and count how many times you've been on Parareality, but it's way more than anyone else has ever been on the show. So,
wow.
Yeah. So I always get...
I need to get out more.
You need to be on the show more, really, because I always get good feedback from whenever you are on the show. And, you know, over the years, we have become friends. And I do consider you a personal, not only just a friend of the podcast, but I consider you to be a personal friend of mine as well. And I will extend this offer to you. I think I do this every time. You're more than welcome to come back anytime you want to.
I'll be back when I can.
Yeah, when you come back from your next adventure out west. I really do. I'm serious. I want you, if you are anywhere close to where these drone things are at, I want a field report, man.
Absolutely.
We can Skype it, dude.
Absolutely.
Or you can just call. You can just call, and I can put your phone call on the air. We don't have to Skype. We can, cell phone it, whatever.
We'll see what we can figure out.
Yeah, we'll try that. So, everybody, John Harrison, thank you, John, for being on the show once again. Everybody, I hope that you enjoyed tonight's episode of Parareality. Let me know what your ideas and thoughts about it are. Send me an email, sandman@parareality.com. Or get in touch with me through my social media accounts. That's Parareality on Facebook and Parareal Radio on Twitter. You can also call the studio line at 615-692-1170. And, of course, don't forget to visit parareality.com often to keep up on the latest paranormal news from all around the world. If you are a paranormal news enthusiast, well, I have got the news feed for you. I have revamped my website. There is a news section on it. I have tons and tons of the latest paranormal news from all around the world. That content is updated daily. You can also shop in the Parareality Radio store and watch some of the terrible videos that I've made for the show over the years. And you can actually follow my social media accounts right on the bottom of the Parareality homepage, because social media is where you can find out all about what's happening behind the scenes here of the podcast. And because that's where I post a lot of interesting articles and show topics and other stuff, like my travels, investigations, upcoming guests, my thoughts and opinions on not just paranormal stuff, but basically everything. So parareality.com is really your one-stop shopping for everything that's happening in the Parareality world. Parareality will be back on February the 7th at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. So make sure you tune in, and find out.
And don't forget, all your base are belong to us.
Right. Whatever that means. Everyone, I hope this podcast opens up your mind to new ways of thinking and produces a change in the way you see the world. If you wish to change, you must lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe. I hope you have a wonderful evening and a great weekend. Don't forget, you can listen to Parareality on your favorite podcast host of choice. There is, of course, Spreaker. There's Deezer. There's Castbox, Player FM, Spotify. What else is out there? Whatever your favorite podcast platform of choice is, Parareality is available on that. So just listen to your heart's content. You can find this episode and all the other Parareality episodes on your favorite podcast of choice. Everyone, I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thanks for tuning into this special extra long edition of Parareality. Have a great weekend, and I will see you again on February 7th at 8 p.m. Central Time. Good night, everybody.
If you wish to change, you must first lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the